Good morning, everybody. Can we get started?
Ready to go?
Welcome. Thanks for coming. My name is Leach. I live right up here in Winslow, short distance away, and real handy to this place. We filed papers on August 7th, earlier, with the Secretary of State to create We the People of Maine Incorporated, a non-political, non-profit, statewide organization whose purpose is to hold government accountable to our constitutions and the rule of law. According to Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution of Maine, quote, all power is inherent in the people. All free governments are founded in their authority and instituted for their benefit. They have therefore an unalienable and indefeasible right to institute government, to alter, reform, or totally change the same when their safety and happiness require it. We expect thousands of Maine people will want to become members of this organization. The certificate of incorporation we attempted to file with the Bureau of Corporations, but which was considered unnecessary. It's explained a lot more than the one we wound up having to file. They preferred a more abbreviated form created by themselves, describing, but the one we wanted to file, describes our purpose much more clearer and how we will achieve the purpose we are after. We have a creator endowed, unalienable right to hold our public officials accountable to the rule of law, our state and federal constitutions and statutes, our city charters and town ordinances. We see that it is an uphill battle for any individual in office who has this intention, yet is surrounded by political machinery and corruption. However, it is up to him, the governor, and us. We do believe in our governor. We were among those who campaigned and helped put him in office back in the first election cycle. We believe that he wanted to restore constitutional obedience in our state. It had to do with a prayer that one day our elections would be about more than parties, personalities, and politics. We believed him to be a candidate who, once in office, would be guided by the state constitution in his official capacity, the rule book that is supposed to govern Maine. But we see that it is an uphill battle for any individual in office who has this intention, yet is surrounded by political machinery and corruption. However, it is up to him and to us to stand strong in the face of it, so that justice and truth may prevail. It is necessary for us to make this statement today because there are serious misperceptions and false accusations about us and other earnest people in America who are trying to stand up for the fundamental principles and ideals upon which America was established. There is an ever-widening constitutional divide separating those who want constitutional governance carried out in decency and good order, and those who do not know or do not care how the system is designed to work. With all that is going on in the world today, the American people cannot afford to be divided. If we cannot sit down and talk to find out what is true and what is not, and to resolve misunderstandings and take steps to correct what is wrong, then our future will be fraught with challenges and difficulties, even beyond those we already see. We are entering a time when the misinformation and misperceptions have become very dangerous. It is time to talk to each other, to identify and distinguish what is true and what is not. We, like many Americans, have spent many hours learning about the contents of our state and federal constitutions. We have done this because we have been concerned about the direction our country is taking and its adverse effects on people. What we have learned, we can share with any of you who are interested to know. Our constitutions are meant to be the supreme law of our land, There is a reason these documents were meant to rule those in office, to prevent rule by the occasional whims of man. We read the Constitutions and began to look at what our servant government was doing in comparison to those rule books. Not surprisingly, we found that they have stepped outside the boundaries we the people have drawn around their power. We have been able to see the effect this disobedience had on our lives. Government has become very politicized, drowning out the voice of our founding documents. When we served the remonstrance on the leaders of the legislature, we felt it was an appropriate step, necessary to let those leaders see how far the state of Maine had strayed from the path the people had marked for it. The remonstrance got the governor's attention, and he asked to see us. That first meeting was followed by many others. We were showing him, well, presumably because he wanted to see it, and hear what we had learned, and he sensed the truth of what we were saying. During our meetings, we dealt with facts, not opinions. We were showing him the law, what government has been doing outside the law, and its effect on our economy, our people, our state, and our country. If there was a way to present this information to all the citizens in our state, we would gladly have done it at the time, and will strive to do so now through the efforts and means we have revealed today. Someone is always with the governor, was always with the governor, taking notes while we were there for the record. We have requested a copy of those notes so we can see for ourselves what was written about at these meetings. We want to understand how others who may have seen these records could totally misconstrue what took place. We are not, and never have been, members of the so-called sovereign citizens movement. We did show the governor a 2012 training manual that shows that what every law enforcement officer in our state is now being taught. There is a remarkable entry for the instructors about the danger of the sovereign citizens movement, and I quote, this is for the instructors first. He's to ask the class audience, his audience, how many of you really feel that the government is working in your best interest? Do you really feel that your elected officials do what is best for you and the country? When you vote, do you really think you made a difference? The instructor asks the class these questions. When asked about questions, many state no. Many of us will not act out against the government because we feel this way. However, the sovereign citizens are inclined to act out, some violently, because they feel this way. They reject the notion of U.S. citizenship and the responsibilities associated with being a U.S. citizen. Quote, the sovereign citizen defined in this training manual, a person whose belief and actions are anti-government, which we're not, and rejects the notion of U.S. citizenship. They claim to follow only God's laws. I don't have a problem with that myself. And the amendments found in the original Bill of Rights, which I don't have a problem with either. Members have said that by force or by peace, a government overhaul will happen. The FBI considers the sovereign movement one of the nation's top domestic terrorist threats. That's why we don't belong to it. I claim that. I'll finish with the notes that are on the end of this curriculum. The definition of domestic terrorism. Groups or individuals operating entirely inside the U.S. attempting to influence the government or population to effect political or social change by engaging in criminal activity. We try to influence government but peacefully. That's the end of the curricular agenda. We showed this to the governor so he could see how out of hand things are getting and that something must be done to stop it. They're being trained to say that God-fearing people are sovereign citizens and thus violent, suggest it, imply it. And that's not true. We are peacefully trying to do this. We've stated in almost all the documents we've served. That effort was taken totally out of context by Michael Tipping and others. Michael Tipping says he has a book coming out. I guess it's already out now, I'm not sure. And wants it to be successful. An invitation to be on a national television program was just what Michael Tipping wanted. However, what he has said to the public is not only reinforcing the constitutional divide, it is patently false. His rhetoric, sensationalism, and lies undermine the stability of the state and hurt innocent well-informed, and well-intentioned people who take seriously their duty and responsibility as citizens of the great state of Maine to defend its Constitution. More than once, we have invited Mr. Tipping, the media, and the governor to hold a public session with us so our side can be heard and misinformation clarified. We've nothing to hide, and any accusation against us, any falsehood, can be clarified within moments. Why has our invitation been ignored? We cannot let Mr. Tipping's false accusations stand. They are too deep and too dangerous against the people who care about our constitutions and the rule of law. So, in addition to establishing We the People of Maine Incorporated, we are also formulating plans as to how we will be dealing with Mr. Tipping's false statements. It's possible his statements can be considered hate crimes, as well as forms of defamation. This is the last thing we want to do, but we cannot let it go, because what he is saying about us is being repeated to others in our nation and around the world on the internet. It must stop and the truth be revealed. With regard to President Alphonse, Speaker Eves, committee members, and other legislators who were served with lawful letters and affidavits about their misfeasance, both apply. If it is any comfort, which it should not be, every state in our union is violating their state constitutions. We believe that our elected officers should honor their oath, their compact to obey the laws. They should be held to those which govern our state, and when they step outside those laws, we believe there must be some peaceful way to hold them accountable. We have tried repeatedly to talk with them, yet received no response. We served a remonstrance stating that the law says what the law says and what they are doing instead. There was no response. Since our previous efforts have met with no response, we have repeatedly approached the Attorney General to ask that a grand jury investigate these violations, alleged violations, and decide what steps are appropriate. It is our right and duty to do this if there is something happening that involves criminal activity. We are asking the question: if the government of the state of Maine is to be directed by our Constitution, and those whom we the people put into office violate its principles, provisions, restrictions, and mandates, is that a criminal offense? We believe it is, and there is legal support for our belief. We will leave it in the hands of the Attorney General and the grand jury to look at the evidence and decide, for that is their duty. The country will be watching to see what takes place. When we took these more severe steps, we knew there would be kickback on our group. Unfortunately, that is only human nature. Sure enough, a statement was released by Senate President Alphonse and House Speaker Eves, accusing us of conspiring with the governor against them to commit violent acts, accusing us of being, quote, people who are dangerous and known to be domestic terrorists, quote, who have threatened violence, are members of the so-called sovereign citizen movement, are, quote, delusional, have, quote, criminal and violent ideas, and so forth. This is a very sad time for the state of Maine, and also a very serious time for our government and our people. The governor has backed away from standing up for us for reasons we do not yet understand, but so be it. It seems to be a race to the finish line. Will they convince you, the public, that we are bad guys? Will someone set us up now in a way that directs the attention away from what they have done and towards something that undermines our efforts to stand for truth and justice? Considering the current circumstances, that seems to be the intent. It is not supposed to be this way. We now live in dire apprehension of what may happen, but it cannot stop us from standing firm. It is very important that the people of Maine understand what is happening. What comes out of this situation will affect every man, woman, and child, and the future of our state. We invite you to read the certificate of incorporation for the organization we have established. No one can misunderstand or misinterpret what is there, and the contents form the basis for our future focus and activity. That, I explained to some of you, that corporate document that we tried to file with the Secretary of State, they would not accept. It's lengthy and it brings out all of our points of why we are forming. It was used in other states, Connecticut, New York, I believe, incorporated with that similar form, but the Secretary of State Bureau of Corporations upstairs in the upper cross building said we need the abbreviated state form for you. So it's the one that's in your press kit is that one, and the other one will be available on our website, wethepeopleofmaine.org. So I'll turn it over to somebody else.